Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the HOA Open Village meeting. Today's event is the POA Candidates Forum. This is something that we do every year to help give you all the opportunity to meet the candidates that are running for the new board positions. My name is Dennis Doherty. I'm the Vice President of Programs for the HOA, and I will be your program moderator this afternoon. The purpose of this forum is to promote our advocacy. Helped you all make informed decisions about this particular election related specifically to preserving and increasing our home values, promoting and improving our quality of life, as well as growing the community on a firm footing. The forum will last 2 hours, and the agenda for the forum will be, hang on one second. We have masks, the church has asked that they recommend social distancing in the masks. If you all are interested in doing that, there's some areas over there where you can do the social distancing. We're going to start off the ceremony today with our invocation from Reverend Jennifer Brown, who's the Associate Pastor of Community Church, Tellico Village. Thank you.
Join me now in a word of prayer. Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for the season of fall, that we get to live in a world with Octobers. Our hearts are full of gratitude for the beauty around us and also for the amazing growth that's happened in this community over the past year. And though we admit sometimes we tire of all the construction around us, God, we are grateful to be in such a good place. We ask you now to give us some of your wisdom as we discern new leadership for this community, that you would make us wise in knowing who to select, but also where your Spirit is guiding these folks for this time. It's in your Son's precious name that we pray. Amen. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay. The forum agenda, basically I will give you an overview of how this forum is going to operate today. Then we'll have a few comments from Ken Litke, who is the president of our HOA, and he'll talk a little bit about our mission and our objectives. Following Ken, we've asked Mitzi Lane, who is the COO of Tellico Village, to talk a little bit about the POA board responsibilities and expectations. Then we're going to give all the candidates the opportunity to introduce themselves. Our candidates this year are Bob Brunetti, Hussein Najim, and John Arguelles. Following their introduction, we're going to get to the meat of our event today, which is a question and answer period. The HOA has prepared a bunch of questions, and we'll go through those questions first, and then we will open up the questions to the audience, both here in the church as well as those who are watching online. Following the Q&A period, the candidates will be given the opportunity to provide their own closing remarks, and then I'll wrap up and close the event. We expect to be completed about 6 o'clock this evening. So regarding the questions to the candidates, as I said, the HOA board prepared these questions. We solicited the board themselves to provide different types of questions that we could, in advance, kind of go through. We tried to identify the ones that would be the most critical to the community to hear at this particular forum. We went through them. We came up with 6 primary questions that we will be asking all of the candidates to respond to. We provided these questions in advance, so many of them may already have some prepared responses for that. Some of the categories of the questions that you'll hear today. Questions related to the quality of the candidates, some of the POA priorities, the amenities, quality of life, vision and planning, leadership style, voice in the village, succession planning, and the land use. So we're trying to cover the waterfront of the things that are most important. For those of you who are watching online, you can submit questions during the forum. One of our HOA members is taking those questions throughout the forum as we go through it, and they will be passed to Ken, who will be moderating the Q&A period at the end so we can get your questions answered from online. Use the chat function just as you would if you were watching a POA meeting. If we should run out of time, what we will do is we will capture those questions that you all have submitted, and then we will, okay, what's going on here? Any of the unanswered questions, and then we will submit those questions to the candidates after the meeting, and we will ask them to respond in writing. Once we get their responses, we will post their responses on the HOA website. Just a few guidelines about asking the questions. First of all, I know we're here in Tellico Village, and it's hard to find anybody with an opinion about anything. But just in case you have one about something, this is not the time to express the opinion. We want to focus the questions on the qualifications of the candidates and helping you make decisions as far as who you want on your board next year. So focus on issues that have the broadest appeal for the community. Try to avoid things that are more focused on your own individual or group areas. For example, if there's something going on in your neighborhood that you want to have addressed, this may not be the time to ask those questions. Don't ask questions of a personal nature, or particularly in today's climate that are related to politics and things like that. This is not the forum to have that dialogue. Don't ask questions that are too complex. We're going to try to address as many questions as we can, and so we want to keep the answers from the candidates as succinct as possible. Before we go any further, I want to express my thanks and the HOA thanks for many people and organizations that have been very helpful in putting this event together. As you might imagine, it takes quite a large group of people to make this a success. First of all, we want to thank the Community Church of Tellico Village and their media team, in particular Mark Powell and Rick Sprather in the back. They're the one that's making all the magic happen here on screen. We want to thank Tellico Village Network and their video production team, Kevin Critch in particular, who's the operations manager there, is here running this to make sure it gets broadcast out to the community. Of course, the POA and their staff for contributing to this event. And then the Homeowners Association, the board members, we've spent a lot of time trying to pull this together and make this a meaningful event for you, as well as the membership of the Homeowners Association, who have contributed input into some of the questions. But most of all, I want to thank you all for being here, showing your interest in the community, and participating in this event. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Lickey, who is our president of the HOA, for him to make some comments about the HOA and our mission.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis.
Here's a slide you want me to do.
I'll do it. Okay. And while we're acknowledging contributions, I'd like to thank Dennis and Levon back here for putting this together, organizing it, and all the fantastic decorations here. I said the only thing they're missing is to have some babies for the candidates to kiss. But this is Tellico Village. He said that's kind of hard to get. So anyway, I want to spend a few moments here to talk about the mission of the HOA and some of our key objectives that we're doing. So our mission statement is to deliver value to Tellico Village homeowners through informative and engaging programs while promoting social fellowship, civic responsibility, and providing a voice for homeowner concerns. And that's a big sentence, so let's break that down a little something simpler. So two main areas, our mission: provide social opportunities and advocate for resident concerns, and provide information on issues impacting residents. Social activities are important, and the reason for many members joining the HOA. But HOA is much more than that. We do provide many social opportunities. We have monthly socials. We have a wide variety of social events that occur throughout the year. We have been impacted by COVID, but we expect next year to be a big year. And these activities range a gamut from attending concerts, theaters, sporting events, dining groups, overnight trips, trivia contests, and the list goes on and on. So let's talk about advocacy just for a moment here. HOA is the one of the founding clubs of Tellico Life. And I'm sure all of you use Tellico Life, and that is the common website calendar where you can find out everything that's happening in Tellico Village. We have a number of open village meetings that focus on topics that are important and relevant to our homeowners. This past year, we had State of the Village, State of Loudoun County, State of Monroe County, and of course, tonight we're having the POA Candidates Forum. We have a monthly State of the Village newsletter, which we send out email, and special voice editions. In the past, we've covered census, how to vote, information on candidates, things like that, information that's sent out to our members and provides, again, timely information. Further to the advocacy, our Vice President of Advocacy, Mark Pantley, works to identify issues with potential effect to homeowners, as well as working with homeowners on specific issues, attempting to aid in resolution. Additionally, the HOA provides liaisons to POA and advisory committees, local government, and organizations. These liaisons serve to provide a two-way communication, bringing back important information from those entities, which we then pass along to our members, and the HOA informs these entities about our member concerns. HOA has established a neighborhood watch program, working with local county sheriffs. HOA also sponsors the Highway Safety Committee, which interfaces with TDOT on Highway 444 matters. I would, as you can see, HOA does strive to be the voice of the village on all matters that affect Tellico Village residents. Annual membership is open to all residents of the village. We are currently in the middle of our 2022 membership drive, and we ask you that you please continue to show your support for what we do by renewing or joining HOA. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Dennis.
Thanks, Ken. Next up on our agenda is Mitzi Lane, who is the COO of Tellico Village, and she's going to spend a little bit of time with you explaining what the responsibility of the POA is. Thanks, Mitzi.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, members of the HOA. I know you all work hard. Last year, this was unfortunately in the top floor of the yacht club, and we weren't able to see everybody's smiling faces, so this is definitely a great change. Before I get into the actual responsibilities, I would like to recognize our current board members who are here with us today. I see that we have our president, Rick Blau. He's here on the third row, and just behind him is Mr. Pat White, and right behind him is Steve Snyder. And are there any other board members back there? I didn't bring my glasses, so I can't see, just blurs. Okay. Thank you to our current board, and thank you to you three who are here and have shown the dedication and your willingness to serve your community. I appreciate that. It's going to be a lot of work. Real quick, the election postcards, they're hitting the mailboxes this afternoon, or actually the post office, so probably the mailboxes as soon as tomorrow. That's just a postcard that's going to inform you that it is POA board election time. On October the 28th, you will start seeing in the mail the actual letter that is for you, that has your personal login and password so that you can go on to VoteNet and actually vote for one of your POA board candidates. So be looking for that. Should you lose that, give us a call at our office. We can reprint one and get that password right out to you. No big deal. And then very quickly, Dennis mentioned, this is not the place for any questions that you may have regarding concerns other than what we're here for today. So I will remind you that we have a spot on the Tellico Village website that's called Help Spot. And that Help Spot ticket is on every single page of the website. So if you have questions, you're certainly welcome to get on there and put those questions in, and we typically respond to you within the next 24 hours. So what I will do now is get into these responsibilities. There are several. I'm going to click just the first page here, and we'll go through those. What the board's responsibilities are to exercise all corporate and legal power necessary to manage and direct the affairs of the corporation, except where it's delegated to the officers, the management team, the staff, and a POA committee. They develop strategic direction. They work heavily with our long-range planning committee. I see members of the long-range planning committee here in the back. We appreciate you. Review and keep up with the organization's vision, mission, core, values, and guiding principles. Develop the annual goals and objectives for the board. One of the things we've already discussed is the fact that the board actually approves the general manager, which is our CEO, the goals and objectives, as well as hire, direct, and review the performance of the CEO. Our CEO actually is going to be retiring next year, and so the board is currently in the process of working on the succession plan, and in hopes that in January we would have a group hired, brought in here to help us with going out and reaching outside candidates. They also exercise the legal and fiduciary responsibilities per the POA's governing documents and applicable laws. They finalize and approve the annual budgets, 10-year plans, annual assessments, and user fees. With that being said, next Thursday and next Friday, top floor of the Yacht Club will be our last two board reviews of the budget. I hope that you've had the opportunity to maybe go back and watch these videos that we've recorded live, or maybe you've attended in person, but they are going to be finalizing the budgets in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have those ready for approval at our November board meeting. So the last set of points I want to make here is the POA board approves expenditures per policy, appoint all new members to the committees of the POA in accordance with the POA's charter and bylaws and the committee charters. With that said, if you're not sitting here, of course, you've missed your deadline if you wanted to run for the board of directors. However, it is not too late to turn in a committee application. I would encourage anyone, no matter what your background is, to research those committees and come out and maybe serve on one of those. Encourage new candidates to run for the board. I know that we said it's too late, but there's always next year. You see what we're doing this year, you've got a whole year to get your homework done. Our POA board also serves as a court of appeal for POA member disputes and appeals from ACC decisions. We have those from time to time, and the board will have to have a special meeting at their convenience along with the property owner and get those set up and kind of serve as that court of appeal. They serve as a liaison to a committee, so not only would you attend a board meeting every month, you would attend the committee that you have been assigned to serve as a liaison and give updates to that committee, and vice versa, give the board updates from the committee that you served on. They approve all POA board rules and policies. They encourage feedback from members. Again, as I mentioned, there's Help Spot, but also you're welcome to call any of our offices at any time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They establish key measures for success and always communicate to members. I think if there's one thing I've learned from all boards in the past, it's that we need to have an open line of communication with our property owners and vice versa. And I know that Pat White's one of the ones that always, I know people say, oh, I have his cell phone or I have his address. I know where he lives. So that's one thing that's nice, is to have a board that will communicate with the property owners and staff equally. So that's really all I have today. But again, I appreciate each of you for coming out. She just held up my 2-minute card, and Ken, you were over. I saw her tell you to sit down. There you are, Dennis.
Thanks, Mitzi. I appreciate it. All right. I've been asked to move these away so we have better photos. Okay. All right. That good. All right. Now, the opportunity of a lifetime. We get a chance to meet our 3 candidates for the 2 open positions on the board. We drew names, and so Bob Brunetti will be first, then Hussein Nujim, and John Arguelles. Bob, It's up to you. To do
Yeah.
do it for you? Okay, you just holler.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. My name is Bob Bernetti. That's not the greatest picture of me, but that's what it is. What it is. I live over in Kahidi, that faraway place that's part of Tellico Village. I am running for the board. Next. I'm running for the board because I believe in Tellico Village. I care about Tellico Village. I believe in public service, and I believe people who live in their community should be involved in public service and in their community. Who am I? My wife, Ramona, down in the front here, and I have been property owners here since 2010 when we first bought our lot in Kahidi, and we retired in 2013 and built our house in 2013 in Kahidi. We are from Connecticut. We are different than most people, the majority of people in Tellico Village. We lived in Connecticut all our lives. We never lived more than 20 miles from where we were born until we moved here, which was a big change. And one reason was our son had moved to Knoxville, married a girl from Knoxville, and we're lucky that we have our 2 grandchildren are right here in Knoxville, not spread out over the country like a lot of people that we do know. My wife and I went to the same high school. We have the same friends. We were a year apart in high school. We'd been together 48 years, married 46 years, which means I've learned the magic words every husband has to know, which is, yes, dear, you're right. I have an undergraduate degree from a small Catholic college in Vermont, St. Michael's, which is just outside of Burlington, Vermont. My law degree is from Quinnipiac University, which is in Hampton, Connecticut, which is a suburb of New Haven. After law school, I went to work for a small law firm in Danbury, Connecticut. That's the town we come from. Some of you may know where Danbury is. It's on the New York border, right on the border. It's about an hour north of Manhattan. I went to work for a small law firm there, and I learned fairly quickly that I liked the courtroom. I liked being in the courtroom and being on my feet. Sitting in an office and drafting wills and contracts was simply not for me. So when the opportunity arose, I became what's called an assistant state's attorney or a prosecutor. Connecticut uses the colonial term state's attorney versus district attorney in which other states. After doing that for 19 years and trying any kind of case or numerous cases, I was nominated by the governor to be a Superior Court judge. In Connecticut, judges are nominated and approved by the legislature. They're not elected. So the governor nominated me along with several other people at the time. We went through the judicial process and we were all approved in 2002. I remained on the bench for 12 years, retiring at the end of 2013, only because 30 years was the magic number for the pension, and I had almost 31 years. And plus, we had our grandchildren here, so we decided to pick up and move the place we had lived our entire lives. Since I've been here in Tellico Village, I was with the HOA for a year as the liaison to Monroe County. As Ken indicated, what the liaison does is he attends the Monroe County Commission meetings once a month, and then reports back to the HOA anything that may pertain to Tellico Village or in particular Kahidi. Since 2016, I've been a notary public in Monroe County, serving in that community, notarizing all types of documents. I had toyed with the idea of getting my license or practicing a little law, but then I decided I'd rather play golf than do that, so I became a notary public. I've been on the Golf Advisory Committee for the past 3 years. I'm an avid golfer. I've worked with the committee for that and with the golf community for 3 years, and it's been very successful and very enjoyable. When you're on one of the advisory committees, you're also a liaison to one of the other advisory committees. In my case, I'm the liaison to the Long-Range Planning Committee. So when I attend the Long-Range Planning Committee meetings, either in person or by Zoom for the last year or so, and when we have our monthly meeting, I report back to the golf committee what's going on in long-range planning. The other members do the same thing for the other committees, so we all have a pretty good idea of what's going on in each of the advisory committees. Well, as I indicated earlier, I've always been involved in community service. I was an assistant scoutmaster in my son's Boy Scout troop. In Danbury, I was on the Parks Authority for 13 years, part of the time as chairman of that authority, which oversaw a public golf course, hiking trails, tennis courts, basketball courts, parks, etc. Part of the time I was chairman, so I'm familiar with recreational activities and recreational budgets. Next, please. I am running because I believe we need to maintain and enhance our current and future amenities. We need to maintain our current infrastructure and expand that infrastructure as it is needed for expansion, which will be coming in the near future. And as we all know, the village is expanding rapidly. Houses are being built on every street. And some of them are being built on lots that you wouldn't even think were lots, but they are. Okay. We must be diligent in maintaining our wonderful quality of life. One thing I'm concerned with is making sure that Tellico Village remains affordable and that our property values are protected. Whether you're a golfer, kayaker, boater, crocheter, you name it, there's something for you to do in Tellico Village, or if you just want to sit on your back porch and look at the beautiful lake, that's fine. That's fine also. I believe next please. I believe my prior education, my experiences would make me a quality board member. I know how to ask questions. I know what questions to ask. I know how to listen to discussions, as I've listened to literally thousands of cases over the years, and make a sound decision based upon the facts that are presented and the issues that are involved. I understand the POA advisory system, how it works, and my learning curve, I believe, as a board member would be fairly quick. I understand why it is important for Tellico Village to develop strong ties with local governments. Once we complete this purchase of the property, we in essence will become a developer of that property in the event, if and when we wish to develop it. So we will need to work with state, local, and federal governments to develop that property again, if and when we wish to develop it. We may not wish to develop it. We may wait a while. It may become green space. There are a lot of things we'll talk about in the question and answer period dealing with the land acquisition. That's one of the questions that the HOA is putting forth. And next. My platform, I guess you would say, is one, we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to find new sources of revenue. We need to keep the POA fees manageable. We need to make each of the departments accountable for the monies they expend and how they expend those funds. We need to manage the growth of the village through the land acquisition and the lots that are already there through the ACC process. We need to utilize this land we're going to get to enhance Tellico Village and to keep Tellico Village green in a lot of areas where they may be able to use those little pieces of property for green space, small parks, etc. We need to work with local government on such projects as the traffic on 444. There always seems to be an accident on 444, and if there's something we can do with local government to help stop that, I think it's an important thing. We need to work to maintain the funding for the fire department and the library from the local government and see if we can get some more funds, more tax money back in those areas. With that, I believe I can be an effective member of the board if you so choose to elect me. And I thank you for your time, and I'll be answering the other questions as we get to them. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you, Bob. Next up is Susania Jim, who's going to give his view on his candidacy.
I just pushed there.
You want to do the one?
No, just this one, if you open it. Just this up and down. this goes down, right? Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everybody. I would like to thank the HOA for arranging this. I think it's a good forum for people to express their opinion and talk about the important things for the village. And also I want to thank the board members which are here. And please, whatever I say here is not personal. Again, my name is Hussein Nijam, and I hear my name pronounced in many, many ways. And I can answer to Nijam, Nijim, or any other variations. As long as you vote for me, there is no problem. I was born about 15 miles from Jerusalem, and then I grew up on the West Bank of Jordan. And in 1964, I went to Egypt, and I spent about 5 years. I did my undergraduate studies there. And then in 1971, I was lucky enough to come to the United States to join the University of Illinois for my graduate work. And I graduated with PhD in engineering in 1977. And during that period, I met my lovely wife, and we have been married for 49 years and plus few months. And we have 3 children, 9 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Next, please. After graduation, I worked for the Boeing company in Seattle as a research and development engineer on different types, the 737, 757, 67 airplanes. And after about 5 years, I decided to deal with the applied side of engineering. So I went and I worked for the Aramco Oil Company, excuse me, aviation department, which is essentially a small airline. We had about 20-some airplanes and 20-some helicopters to be able to support the oil company. In that role, I was responsible for the technical side of things, plus the planning and the financial side. I did the accountability reports, I did the business plans, the operating plans, the budget, the procurement. I was lucky enough to go all over the world to buy airplanes and sell airplanes if needed. And that was lots of fun. And during the last 5 years, I worked for Aramco Services Company in Houston for actually working in Houston for 10 years. 5 of them, I was the head of corporate planning, and my responsibility was to do the strategic planning, similar to long-range planning and some of the board activities here. And I was also a board member of the company which owned the aircraft for Saudi Aramco. Next, please. When I was working overseas, we had friends who also worked for the company. And they came back to Oak Ridge. They are from Oak Ridge. And we used to come to Oak Ridge almost every year. And also, our son went to the boarding school in Chattanooga. So we became very familiar with the area. And in 1998, we were visiting our friends in Oak Ridge and in the village. And we liked the village. So we said, oh, let us buy a lot just in case. And we bought the lot. And in 2009, I retired, took early retirement. And we started building our house. It took about 15 months to build it. And we rented during the period for about 7 months. So when I later on talk about rental, we rent, and it's good to have rental property. I also, in 2018, I believe, there was the focus group. I took the survey and was part of the focus group. And that opened my mind a little bit about what the activities here and what's the life in the village and what is public service and the volunteering. So I joined the MGA board for 3 years and was the president for one of the years. And I asked some of the candidates actually, which are sitting here, questions about their support of the Gulf during that period. And in the last 3 years, I became like, I started thinking about my work as in corporate planning, and I see the things which are coming out, the communication, lots of communication, lots of nice stuff. So I said, okay, well, let me see if I can be of any help. So I thought running for the board just to be able to contribute what I can. And next, please. Running for the board is very important, and always you ask the question, what do you bring to the table? What would you do differently? And for me to answer this question, I look always at what is going on, and there is no better place to start than the vision and the mission of the company or the association. So I looked at the vision. It was a little bit challenging. It has lots of engaging and dynamic, etc. But I looked at the mission, and actually I like the mission. It said, enhance and preserve the Teleco village quality of life, social fabric, property values, and overall value for the members through effective and efficient management of the association. There is nothing better than that. It says it all. Even if I don't say any more thing and I just say, whatever I will do is to uphold the vision and the mission, I think that will tell all of it. So with that in mind, I will just make few observations on comments. And I would like to say that in recent boards, which I had the chance to receive communication and sometimes look at the board meetings, recordings, or attend the board meetings, I believe all the board, the management, and the volunteers have done a great job for the village. And I commend all of them for their activities. It doesn't mean that everything is perfect. I mean, no, nothing is perfect in life, and always there are room for improvement. And also, I want to say that the communication and the transparency, and I have been here 11 years, so I watch lots of things, has improved quite a bit. I think the people who do the communication, they have done a great job. The transparency, I think it is good, but I believe it can stand more chance for improvement. I have talked about, at the board meeting, about the existing government documents, and actually they are probably getting tired of me saying that. But to me, the governing documents are the most important foundation of all the rules which we do. And for you, everybody here, I just want to say, like all of us are bound by these documents, whether you sign them, whether you read them, whether you know about them or not. These are the declarations which Cooper community have established. They call them Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions. So when you complain to the POA about anything you cannot do, they will come and tell you, but it is in the deeds and the restriction. So it's very important for all of us really to understand what these documents say. And by the way, they are written by lawyers, for lawyers. Excuse me, Rick. I mean, Kevin is not here, so I can't say that. So, I mean, we have the judge here, but they're written for lawyers, by lawyers. If you try to read them, it's really very difficult. But if you have the persistence, probably you can get through. After you finish reading the whereas, notwithstanding, and thereupon, you might get somewhere and read what is the beef, so to speak. So these documents, which is the declaration plus the bylaws and then the charter, these actually what control everything in the village. And they were done by Cooper for a for-profit organization. Their job is not to worry about the homeowner, it's actually to worry for maximizing their profit, which is the right thing to do because they are a company for a profit. Now, we are not in that phase, and especially after the new land acquisition, which is actually a very good thing, and I congratulate the board and management in doing that. So I believe, and also part of the history, that those documents, they were valid for 26 years, and they were like to be reviewed and renewed every 10 years. And I said that in the last meeting, and Kevin corrected me. They said they were amended. And I asked about the first amendment of these documents. And actually, interesting, it was to change the period of review and no more 10 years. Like anytime you can review it, which is actually a great thing to do. So with that in mind, I think it's about time to review them. And whatever good in them, we keep it, and if it needs, and I have two particular issues which I understood of the documents. The first one is doing business in residential areas. Those documents, they give you the zoning requirements. Say this is residential, this is commercial. So doing business from the residential area is one. The second one, it is in practice, it is not a big deal. But I just want to say, like, the election process, since we are in the election season. And I don't know if all of you know, like, we are all, the three of us, are residents of the village, and we are property owners. But the declarations, it says, like, those candidates can be from anywhere, whether are residents, non-residents, property owners, non-property owners. And that is good for a company which can get boards from anywhere. Then the second thing, it says actually the board can nominate a slate of candidates beside the three of us. And the worst thing is the board can vote the own POA lots for the election. And the board is very wise, of course. They did not exercise any of these things. They don't exercise it. So it's a good thing. Why the board would have this authority? To me, and always when I was taught civic things and citizenship questions, I always remember the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And here, as resident, the board members should be residents, not any from anywhere, and the board should absolutely have no chance of influencing the election. And they have not done anything wrong. I mean, they have done the right thing, but I think it's a good time to review the documents and change them as needed. The second thing I want to talk about is the growth in the village. I walk almost every day, and I see another house or another lot being cleared. And the growth could be always very good and useful, especially when you have a growing village. Right now, the village is about, I would say, 70. The last number I saw from marketing, it's like 72% built, which is a good thing. The growth is a great thing as long as it's managed and managed well. And if the growth impacts the quality of life, then we need to look at it. And I will go to the next one. So, as I said, the board is doing a great job. If I was elected to the board, I would go through the 23 items which Mitzi put on the board for the board responsibilities and just summarize them in a little bit. I would say the board should focus on strategic issues, not operational issues. Management has been in the business for 30-some years, 40 years, and they can do a good job without constant supervision from the board. And of course, community participation is the most important thing, because we are the people who can influence the board and influence management to continue doing the right thing. With that, just the things we need to do is review these things, and I'm told my time up. I will address if anything remaining in the question and answer. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hussein. Next up is our last candidate, John Arguelles.
Everybody hear me okay now? First of all, I'd like to thank my lovely wife, Diane, who's in the front row there, for being gracious enough to allow me to go forth with this. She's been my support for many years, and I really appreciate the fact that she's here today, hopefully for the rest of our lives together. So the other thing I like to say is thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the watching on live stream. And for those of you who have chosen to support me already, I appreciate that. I look forward to working with all of you as we go forward. You know, I'd like to approach this today just like a, next slide, please. Yeah, there we go. I'd like to approach this as a chat that we would have if the two of us were sitting in a restaurant or something, or having a cup of coffee and discussing some of the issues that we're facing today. But first, next slide. Oh, there we go. I like to remember these three letters: I, C, and F. Now, what does that really stand for? Well, for me, it means infrastructure, communication, and fiscal responsibility. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but first, let me give you some personal information about me and about my family. My wife and I moved here in 2018. I'm a husband, I'm a grandfather, I'm a great-grandfather. We have 2 great-grandsons. I'm a retired dentist. I own my private practice. I'm retired from the captain in the U.S. Navy, 30 years active and reserve duty, and I served in command and staff positions during that time. My education, I have a BS from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and I received my dental degree from Georgetown University, also in Washington, D.C. So, in addition to running a private practice and being in the Navy, most of the time in the reserves, what else did I do with my time? It would seem like maybe that was enough. But for me, I felt I needed to do some other things. So I started a property management development company, construction business, and I also owned and managed a private 100-acre orange ranch, and I was appointed to a district agricultural board in California overseeing exhibition halls and fairgrounds. So what do I bring to the table other than the fact that I was in private business most of my life? Well, as running a development construction company, I had to know how to forecast. I knew I needed to know how to think strategically, otherwise it wouldn't have been a success. I also know how to manage a payroll. Obviously, I can read a balance sheet and be able to look at what the future portends, because it was a necessity for me to do that moving forward. So what kind of community involvement have I had since I've been here in Tellico? and a few other things that I did. Well, right now I'm president of the New Villagers Club of Tellico Village. I'm on the board of Tellico Life, and I'm also president of the Tenasseee Cove Townhomes Association, where Ken and I both live. So I've been pretty active in the time that we've been here. I was also a member and chairman of City Harbor Commission with the 1,200 slip marina in the city we lived in. Obviously, there's a lot of boating that goes on here, and we're going to enlarge the number of slips in the village, which is a good thing, so I can bring that sort of expertise to the village also. Now, why am I running for the board? Well, you know, I mentioned those 3 letters before, I, C, F. I kind of like things like that. It helps me visualize in my mind and what I'm thinking about. But infrastructure, communication, and fiscal responsibility. Now, as a board member, my focus will be to listen to and represent all property owners to reflect your goals and desires for the future of our village. We're at a crossroad now with what's going on in terms of growing and land acquisition. And I think it's really interesting that we're now having such rapid growth. The best thing that happened is the land acquisition that has taken place, because now we can define our own destiny. And I think envisioning the future for our community is critically important for all of us as we move forward. So as we approach build-out, it's really important that we plan for infrastructure, maintenance, and expansion as necessary. You know, I think at its core, we need to have transparency in operations, decision-making, and responsible fiscal management. So we need to also maintain and enhance our property values and communications with residents. And I put this last little phrase here on this page in red, because we must maintain your trust going forward. We're all in this together. I think all the candidates up here agree that we must act in our own best interest, and we have that available to us now. So the board requires members who have the necessary skill sets to really effectively prioritize and give direction to the POA staff to meet the needs of property owners. You know, how we accomplish these goals requires the dedication and leadership experience and responsible decision-making background that I have. So I would ask you to look at all of the candidates, and I would be extremely grateful if you would give me your vote. And I thank you for taking the time to listen and to watch this, whether it's online, whether it's later, or just to be here today. So thank you, neighbors, for listening to me.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think the introductions were great, and I would just like to ask, we give them all a great applause, okay? It's very important that we know who you are, and good luck with the election. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to turn the evening over. This is the highlight of the evening, and the primary purpose of the evening is to get some of the questions answered that we hope you all have. As I said earlier in my opening comments, the HOA has put together a list of 6 prepared questions. All of the candidates have seen those questions in advance, so they are prepared to answer those. And then we'll be prepared to take questions both from the audience as well as from those online, and we will take those after we've heard from the prepared questions. So, Ken?
Thanks, Dennis. And thanks, candidates, for staying on time. Now we'll get into the main reason for this forum tonight, questions to the candidates. A couple of housekeeping rules on how this will work. I will read the full question, and then each candidate will have allowed the same maximum amount of time to answer. I will not reread each question between candidates, as they have been provided the questions in advance, and of course they're on the screen, they can see them right there. This is not a debate, But if a candidate feels a statement was made that requires a response, they can ask for time, which I will grant, assuming I feel warranted. We did draw cards before the meeting, and the first question will go to John. And let's get that first question up. And there will be 3 minutes for this question, maximum. If you are elected to the POA board, what would your number one goal or focus be on? In essence, why are you running? And B, in your opinion, what should the POA board do? Start doing, stop doing, and keep doing. So, John?
Well, I'm running for the POA board to make sure that we maintain a strong infrastructure as the village grows, and that we have sound fiscal management, and that we have transparent, open communication with all residents. Our board must conduct all business except personnel matters in full view of the public, in keeping with practices followed by other public entities. We should create a 10-year plan that is all-inclusive instead of what looks like just a capital plan for expenditures, income, and nuts and bolts things to replace. I like to focus on where the concepts regarding our social fabric and day-to-day living as our community grows. We need to include a roadmap for our short-term future that resonates and reflects current residents right now.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Hussein?
I think the number one goal for me would be managing the growth in a responsible manner. In this regard, I would make sure like we don't get incentives for accelerating the growth. I mean, the natural growth, people want to build and come to the village, I think that's great. But the programs which we had, which is the builder program, which was actually good at the time, and I understand some of the incentives are going to go away. I don't see a value at this stage with the market as good to give any incentives for that. The second thing, with the new acquisition, there is lots of new areas which will need to be looked at it, and I don't think we are obligated to build the 7,800 whatever homes. Whatever makes sense, like to increase the parks, to increase the amenities, to make life better, I think we should look at that. The items, what should the board do? Again, establish a master plan for the new acquisition and see what's the best utilization with input from the community, or what they stop doing. Actually, it depends on the situation, but if they can stop like the frequent meetings, that would be great. What they continue doing would be good communication, which they continue that, they do good, and the strategic planning.
Thank you. Bob?
All right. First of all, I'd like to say that the board, the present board, has done a great job in managing the village. And as all previous boards have done the same, Calico Village has been very lucky over the last 35 years to have people who have stepped forward to set up systems and procedures and programs which make Calico Village what it is today. And in my opinion, it is very well run. As I stated in my opening, the reason I'm running is that I care about Calico Village, I care about maintaining our lifestyles, I care about maintaining our property values, and that would involve maintaining the infrastructure, expanding, improving the infrastructure as needed, as well as the roads and the water and all the parts of that. As far as what the board can do, I think the board does need to develop some sort of a board of directors management system to see that the board's goals and objectives are accomplished. I see the board as the board sets the policy and the employees carry out that policy, and that the departments, each of the departments would then be held accountable to see that that policy is carried out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the second question, and this will be 3 minutes again. And the first question will go to Hussein this time, and I'll read the question. POA board members represent all residents and property owners of the village. Some voices or groups may speak louder than others, so getting a balanced viewpoint may be difficult. By what specific methods will you use or plan to use to obtain the voice of the village on important issues? If you are faced with a decision of promoting or voting on an issue where there is a majority view from the residents, your own personal viewpoint, what you think is the best decision for the village, all of which may be different, on what basis will you make your decision? Can you say?
I think there are many avenues to solicit input from the community. That includes town hall meetings, focus groups, includes also like the HOA forum. This forum is a nice forum. I think if it is conducted more frequent. And also the neighborhood have gatherings, like lots of neighborhoods, they have monthly gathering. I think those gatherings, should people communicate to the PO board with their concerns and to management. And also, I want to say it is a two-way communication. Like you want to communicate to the board, then also it is our responsibility as residents to take the initiative and do anything we can to communicate to the board our concerns or desires. If there is a conflict between what I think and what is the majority says, I will express my opinion very clear, but I believe always the majority rule and the majority wishes should be respected.
Thank you. Okay, Bob, same question.
Well, having had made, I guess, thousands of decisions over the course of my career, I would base my decision bet on what is good for the village in the long run, not a quick fix situation. It may not be the most popular decision, but would be what is good for the village overall for the village. And in the court system, there's a little saying among judges. Usually, in a case, there's two sides, and one side is happy and one side's not happy when you make your decision. Well, the best decisions are when neither side's happy. So if neither side's happy with the decision, then you really know you made the right decision. I also agree with Hussein. I think there may be a need for some town hall meetings on certain issues that people can come and express their feelings, their issues, their questions. Not necessarily a question and answer session, but something where you want to come and you want to tell us about something or talk about something to the board members, either by neighborhood or as a group. I think that's one way to communicate. We all know that we can read the minutes of the board meetings and the committee meetings, and the telegram has different things. One thing I would like to see is after each board meeting, either the GM or the president of the board send out a text or an email, 2 paragraphs, synopsis, what happened at the meeting, what was done, a quick overview of what happened at that meeting. I think a lot of people will read a 2-paragraph text or an email versus sifting through the website to try to find the minutes and going through the entire minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. John, same question.
Well, I would add to that, I think community meetings, neighborhood gatherings, electronic surveys available to all property owners, not just the homeowners, would be effective. And, you know, if my viewpoint is different, convince me with logic and facts.
Okay. We'll now turn to question 3. I'll read the question again. One of the most significant actions the new 2022 board will undertake will be the picking the successor to replace our long-serving general manager, CEO, Winston Blazer, who will be leaving the end of 2022. So part A, what are the key competencies and or experience you would like to see in the next general manager, CEO? B, what things would you like the next CEO to do differently, if any, from the current CEO? C, as the search selection process progresses, what level of transparency should we expect as homeowners based upon the impact it will produce? Do you feel an outside search firm and/or village residents should be part of the search and selection process? If so, how should they be selected? And E, what specific goals or vision for the village would you share with potential candidates for the position? And this will be a 5-minute question, and we'll go to Bob first.
All right. This is a long question. We could spend an hour talking about this question. My first thing, and I believe first that a detailed job description should be completed. It's my understanding the board is in the process of doing that. Second, I do believe a search firm should be employed. I don't know if it needs to be a nationwide search. I think a regional search, Florida to Virginia, west to Arkansas, is sufficient. There are hundreds of communities like ours that have chief executive officers, general managers, assistants, CFOs, all of which I think would be good candidates or might be good candidates. I think someone with at least 3 to 5 years management experience in a community such as ours would be a prerequisite. If the person had some sort of a legal background or an accounting background, that would be a plus, because we're dealing with, in Telegraph Village, really a $20 million corporation or a $20 million business. So that person would need to have some expertise in money matters and even maybe a little bit of politics, so that he could deal with all the different factions that we have here in the village. I think the person should be required to live in the community, so that he or she would be one of us, would share the same concerns on a daily basis that we have, traffic, whatever. I think the POA the best way to do it would be to have a subcommittee to work with the search firm, and have that firm identify 10 persons that would qualify under the criteria set by the board. And then once there are 10 candidates were determined, the entire board would then review these candidates or meet with these candidates, interview these candidates, which then would go down to 3, and then there would be a second interview with the 3 finalists to see if, in fact, to hire one of them as the CFO. When I was on the Parks Authority, that's what we did. We had to hire a golf pro, we had to hire a golf superintendent. We didn't use a search firm because we had a large group of people in the local area who qualified, but we had a subcommittee, and then we had it was a 9-person commission, and we narrowed it down from 10 to 3, and then we picked it up. As I said, I think that person should live here in the village, so that he knows how the village works, and he's had prior experience in a place like us that has not just a golf course, but we have pickleball courts, wellness center, all the different amenities that we do have. And since we now are going to be a developer, if and when we decide to develop the property, that person should be able to work with local governments, as I say, some political savvy, so that a person could work with local governments when in fact that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Well, we're going to make a big decision this next year, to replace a CEO. I think we should use a regional search firm at minimum. And the things that I would like to see that new CEO have is either holding a position similar to another POA HO entity, or having been a city manager possibly of a town of up to 20,000 residents. I'd like to see a business administration or a public administration or other related field degree. Somebody, I think, with an MBA would be preferred. Somebody who's strategic and visionary, has got solid financial skills, and able to come up with creative ideas for solving issues that are related to limited resources. Managerial skills such as planning and designing and implementing technologies that will help staff members improve productivity and performance, and somebody that has strong oral and written communication skills and strong listening skills. It's really important that we take the time to replace our present CEO with somebody, and this is going to be hard after 30 years of having the same person there. There's a lot of knowledge that Winston has, and I think that we are really been blessed with the fact that he had a strong relationship with the Cooper brothers and was instrumental in getting the POA board and Cooper together to start talking about the land acquisition. This probably wouldn't have happened. We have somebody who has just years and years and years of experience here. It's going to be difficult, so we need to choose carefully how we do that. So as far as the residents' income, or input, not income, as far as the residents' input, I think it would be well to solicit comments from anybody who wishes to have input, and that the board take that into consideration when we lay out the parameters of how we're going to do a search. Let's see if I've forgotten anything that I wanted to say here. I don't think so. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. Hussein?
The competences, I believe there is a job description, and I think that needs to be reviewed to make sure that is what we want. I think, like Bob mentioned, I think the person should have experience in running similar communities like ours. Also, the person needs to have leadership qualities. He's not going to be like the expert in everything, which he has a good staff, he has a chief financial officer, he have all the accountants, he have all the people who do the job. His leadership qualities is very important, his or her, by the way. And I would support the things he would do different than the next COA. I like to see the COA more visible. Currently, what we see are the boards, the committees. Look at the communications, which comes with the telegram. We have the board meetings, we have the community meetings. I did not see any time which says, here is the CEO and the management meeting. There are the people who are doing the job, and they are the best people to answer the questions and tell us why they are doing this. Regarding the search, yes, I support the search, and of course, whatever the board can think the areas or the people, I think they can get input from other people, but I think the search would be a good idea. Regarding the transparency, I would say the transparency should be on the front side, which is, here is what we are looking for, here are the parameters. But once that is gathered, I think the board there is no room for transparency at that time. I think privacy should be there. We elected the board to do their job, and they should do it as such. The specific goal or visions I would share everything with the possible candidates, because it's very important to know what they are getting into it, so there are no surprises, how we do business, what the areas, what the amenities, and we don't want turnover. We don't want somebody to spend all the time and then, I really did not know about this or that. The other thing, which is probably nobody talked about it, the search should be from the outside as well as from the inside. I think, and I would suggest this, like put people like from the management currently right now, put them in acting roles, like Mitzi or Kevin or any of the management, review them and put them in acting roles and see how they do. Because lots of times the inside has the knowledge and the history of the village. So we have a year, we might want to look at it. The last thing I would say, if we are valuing the chief executive experience and position, I would say if we get the person, let them do their job. Let them manage it, and I think they will do a great job.
Thank you. There we go. Question 4. Read the question. Telco Village is rapidly growing. With the recently announced Telco Village Strategic Land Acquisition Initiative, we have been given the opportunity to acquire developer rights and 206 additional acres within the village from Cooper Community. Acquisition of this property will allow us to invest in our own community, safeguard property values, and retain the Telco Village culture. The POA has stated the usage of this land could be in the form of additional green space, villa communities, boat slips, and more. A, do you think the POA is adequately balancing this growth and infrastructure needs with homeowner expectations of maintaining a high quality of life? And B, what do you see as the biggest opportunity in this acquisition, and what would you focus on first? And this will be a 3-minute question to John first.
Well, I think that the overarching opportunity here is to take charge of our own future and destiny. We now have established boundaries around the village, and that's going to allow us to decide what we want to do and how we want to do it. My first focus would be to do nothing until as a community, we have established a consensus going forward, deciding on how much green space we wish to have in perpetuity, and then the decisions to add more boat slips, an additional villa community, more amenities can be made. I don't think there's any reason to rush this process. We're still digesting it, and I think we need the input of all of the village residents as to the highest and best use. One of the things that I heard at the land acquisition presentation that was put on is we have a lot of little small pieces of property that are on the fringe of the community. And one of the property owners got up and said, you know, there's a piece of property behind my house. It's not big enough to put anything on it. I'd like the opportunity to purchase that property. And I would put a restriction on it that it's to remain open space in perpetuity. So you have a lot of different options here to look at. And I don't think we should be in any rush to do anything for the first year.
Okay. Thank you, Hussein.
I think in fairness to the POA and management,
Mike.
in fairness to the PO and management, I don't think they have made a proposal for any use of these new acquisition. I think what they said, they are going to study it, and then they will come to the community and talk with them. So, and I'm sure there will be time to review and time to see how the usage will be done. And I would recommend that the POA take the time to see what's the best interest of the village. Right now, we have the opportunity to see what we have done right and continue with it, and what we have done not so good and try to avoid it. We are no longer a Cooper community for a profit. So if we can use these facilities for enhancing the amenities, for having community parks, I think let us do that. And the best opportunity for us really is to recalibrate the way we do business. We look at our plans, look what we have done good, and what we can do better. Thank you.
Okay. Bob?
First of all, I think buying this property is a no-brainer. We have to buy this property because the biggest part of this property is the development rights that go with it. We now have the control over what's built there, when it's built there, who builds there, how it's built. The complete package is now in our hands, and we are no longer landlocked, so that we can, if we need to buy adjacent property, or down the road we need to buy some more land for some reason that's adjacent to us or abuts our property, we have the opportunity to do so. Or before, we were a little landlocked by the Cooper properties. First thing I would suggest is that each parcel has to be evaluated for what's the best use of that parcel, and that may take some time. And as I said, I don't know that there are any plans at this time to do anything to develop any of this property, but I think a lot of it could be used for green space, small parks in the neighborhood, these small little pieces of land that we're going to get could be used for the enjoyment of the people who live in those neighborhoods where these properties are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move to question 5. The POA has established a 10-year plan, and there is a committee working on a long-range strategic plan. Plans must be tied to a vision with short and long-term objectives. Who we are, our culture, our values, and what we offer our residents and property owners. Question A, what is your vision for Tellico Village? B, how aligned are the current plans with your vision for the village? And this will be a 3-minute question. Hussein, you're up first.
I personally probably would revise the vision statement. My vision for the village is to have a beautiful, tranquil, harmonious community working together and enjoying the great things the village offers. That would be my vision. I believe the mission statement is a good statement, and I would not do anything to change it, except when we add commercial properties with this new stuff, I think we need to revise both the vision and the mission statement. And again, I would emphasize on the unintended consequences of growth. And one item which was in my original presentation, part of the growth, we are seeing more rental properties in the village. And the one item which I want to emphasize is the short-term rental. I did not come to the village to live to a next mini hotel. And that's really it is a business, it's in a residential area and should be treated as a business. And whatever the legal requirements, whatever the business requirement, we need to look at it. When we have a single family home and we have 2 or 3 families in the home, maybe we should charge them additional assessments because we have more than that. When we have a hotel, the advantage, they don't pay local taxes. So, and when you rent a house for 10 or 12 people, and they are making all the noise and all the partying, you know, our midnight here is 9 o'clock. So you don't want to, that's the quality of life. That is the social fabric. I mean, we need to walk the talk. Thank you.
Okay. Bob, same question.
My vision would be to continue to maintain and enhance the amenities and the services that we have. As I said earlier, the village is very well run. There are a myriad of things for people to do from all kinds of activities, and that we need to maintain those. We need to enhance those where possible. We need to work closely with each of the departments to identify their priorities to meet the needs of a growing and a younger village. Marketing will tell you that the village is getting younger. There's a large turnover in people coming into the village who are younger, who are going to look for different things and want different amenities or whatever. So we need to look at demographics as part of our vision. Our vision must look at the demographic of the people that are moving into the village to decide what we want to do and where we want to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Well, first of all, I think we all need to acknowledge the fact that we're having younger people moving in here, but maybe that was us 10 or 12 years ago also. So I don't know if it's really changing. We see it more now because we have more homes. I think my vision for the Tellico Village is for it to be a dynamic, engaging, and comprehensive community meeting the changing needs of our property owners in a fully responsible manner. You know, this results in a lifetime of well-being, and also to ensure that we offer a competitive, best value lifestyle with lake, golf, recreation, and other highly sought-after amenities and services. What I see now in terms of our 10-year plan is I think it needs a little more definition added to it to reflect the social fabric and short-term goals that are more than capital expenditures and finance. The long-range plan is due for an update in 2022, and I'd have to say that the 2019 long-range plan was extremely comprehensive and very, very well done. And I would congratulate the Long-Range Planning Committee in undertaking and publishing that study. If you haven't read it, it's online. You really should go take a look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, I have in my hand, this is the final question, by the way. I'm sure the candidates will be happy for that. I'll read it first. The current 10-year plan does not feature new amenities in it. A, in your opinion, how should new amenities come about and be paid for? B, should all new amenities be self-funded, not from assessments, but only via homeowner contributions through timeless teleco and user fees? And C, should the POA board or advisory committees be promoting new amenities? And if yes, what do you think would be some good examples of amenity opportunities for the future? And this will be a 3-minute question, and to Bob first.
All right, thank you. When I got this question, I went to a few friends of mine and people that I play golf with, many of whom live over here in the main village versus the outlying area, outlying or Kahiti, and asked them what they thought about this question and how they would answer this question. Well, basically the consensus was we need to maintain the amenities we have and to grow those amenities as are needed or as the demographics of the village change. As to what other amenities, there are several mentioned an outdoor pool at the Wellness Center, the outdoor dining or terrace dining at the yacht club down by the water. More docks. Docks were that's probably the most part. People, we have a shortage of docks. Docks are very important. We need to get more docks, though we have to deal with the TVA to get docks once we buy this property. Some of the property that we are going to own will allow us to have some more docks. From an Italian perspective, bocce courts in a bocce league. If you go to Florida, mostly all the retirement communities, you see bocce courts and bocce leagues, but maybe they're full of New England Italians or New York Italians, I don't know. As far as financing goes, private funding is one way, as we did in Kahiti with our new building and our portico. Pickleball, as I understand, is doing that right now, is doing a private funding event. Maybe a specific fundraiser of some sort tied to a fund for a certain event tied to a project. Applying and obtaining grants, possibly through the Timeless Teleco Foundation. The village itself cannot apply for grants because of the type of corporation we are, but Timeless Teleco, the foundation, can. And as we all know, the state and federal government give away millions of dollars every year. There's no reason why we can't apply for and try to get some of that. All they can say is no. We need to work with local governments to try to get some of our tax dollars back, and that's why good relations with the local governments are a must, in my opinion.
Thanks, Bob. John?
Well, in terms of amenities, there are two types of amenities that we have in the village in terms of how they're treated. One, there are needs, like rebuilding a clubhouse or adding space to the wellness center. And then the second type of amenity I would classify as wants. That's want. That would be anything like bocce ball courts or executive golf course. And POA has some procedures for that. For any proposed project, the POA does a rigorous needs analysis, and if the need is proven and documented, it'll be placed within the 10-year budget plan. This is also true for items already in the long-range plan when their time arrives. So If it doesn't measure up to a need, it will be considered for private funding. Examples of that have been the pickleball plex, and they decided that they wanted to step that up. So they did a private fundraising, and that was time was Teleco, I believe. And the same thing, Kahiti had some things that they really wanted to get done, so the residents stepped up. And Bob, your community did a great job down there by doing that. So it's a needs or a wants based thing. That's about all I can say about that, in addition to what the other candidates have said.
Okay, Hussein?
I think any new amenities should come from the membership. They should come and request it, rather than the board or management go add additional amenities. If the growth dictates expanding the amenities, great. I mean, that's a need and it has to make financial sense. If the new generation, the younger people, then want tennis courts, fine. I think the user fees and some private funding should do that. And to the extent possible, all amenities should be self-sufficient, the new amenities. I think there are circumstances where you cannot really have amenities to stand alone, like in golf, most likely. If you want to stay competitive and people do not want to go play outside, then you have to have competitive rates, and then you have to have the subsidies. I don't think the POA or any board advisory committees should promote new amenities. If the study for the new land acquisition shows like we need community parks, we need more green space, then I think that's a good thing. But again, the input should come from the people to reflect their needs and desires.
Okay, thank you. And that ends the prepared questions. Let's thank the candidates for answering all those. Okay. We'll turn it back over to Dennis here.
All right. Now this is somewhat open mic. We welcome you all to come forward and ask the questions that you have. If we get a lot of you, if you can just kind of queue up to the side and then take turns coming up to the mic, that would be awesome. And we'll also have some questions that have come through online, and we will be interjecting those as well. So I welcome you all to come forward, those of you who have questions that you'd like to ask. Surely there's at least one question out there. Okay, good.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. There seemed to be unanimous agreement that there's no reason.
I apologize. You put the mic up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Thank you.
Seems to be unanimous agreement that there's no need to be in a hurry to do anything with the land that we're buying. Here's my question for you. It seems like this is a seller's market for land.
Yeah, can we crank up their mic at all? Thanks, Rex.
Yeah, it seems like this is there we go. It seems like this is a seller's market for land. 8 months ago, we bought our lot on Solali Way for $12,000. We could sell it for $30,000 tomorrow. I think a lot of that's because interest rates are historically low. There are large numbers of people that can afford a $500,000 house on Solali Way today at 2.75% interest rate that could not do the same if rates became 3.5% or 4%. Should we be concerned that there could be a macroeconomic shift if inflation keeps going up, the Fed needs to get hawkish, mortgage rates go up, demand for housing goes down, demand for lots goes down, we're stuck holding $5 million worth of property and can't give it away? Am I worrying too much?
What's that? You want him to repeat the question? Okay, they were having trouble understanding they were having trouble understanding. Could you just summarize again very quickly your question?
Yeah. I'll try to be more brief here. The reason that we're in a seller's market for land is because interest rates are low. That's my assumption. Because interest rates are low, people can afford expensive houses in Tellico Village that they couldn't afford if interest rates were considerably higher. My concern is, should we be moving more quickly to get us out of owning land? Do we want to be in the speculation business of owning millions of dollars worth of land and be exposed to rising interest rates and stuck with an asset that we can't get rid of? Does that not make sense at all?
It's not work. Is it working? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I understand your question that way. Should we be concerned with a possible, I guess, recession or a mild recession, which would impact our property values, and should we be getting rid of this land, I guess, quicker so that we?
Yeah, I think it's a genius. It's absolutely must that we buy the land, but it's putting us into the real estate speculation game, and I'm not sure that that's, we're buying high and we can only sell low.
Well, my answer would be the marketing department has been studying this and been working on this for a while. That they obviously, these zero interest rates and low interest rates can't last forever, and we all know that real estate is cyclical, and at some point there's going to be some downturn. That's just what history tells us. As far as maintaining the land, if we keep the land and don't sell it, then that land is not available, and your property value should stay the same or close because there isn't more property available. So I think the opposite of what you think. I think we should keep the land, and we sort of keep it in reserve for a later time. So we don't decrease. If we went out and sold one of the pieces to a developer and he put 200 more homes on there, which I don't think anything's big enough for that, but then that's going to be competing against your home. So we have to keep, one, marketing Tellico Village outside the area, and two, to be very careful in how we use that land.
This gentleman on the right remembered my wife's question.
I could not understand the whole question, but what Bob said, if I can understand it correctly, I think the market will always determine what goes on. And I think the interest rate is one thing. I remember when we first bought our house, the interest rate was 11%. Actually, I paid 11 and a quarter. So the market always will fluctuate up and down. And I think if people speculate, they take the risk. But to me, what can be controlled by the board and management is to ensure that the village is the best place to live. That will guard against the risk. And things will go up and down in any place, and the market always will dictate that. And 1.5% or 2% interest rate is great, but I think people should look at 5 or 6% for the long run.
Okay. John, do you have a comment? And we need to keep this moving, so.
What I would say is, I remember when the interest rate was 16%. That's a long time ago. So the fluctuations that you see now are not that much. The good thing about Tellico Village is all of the lots that we have, for the most part, are income producing. People own them. They're going to pay for them. They're going to pay the dues. So what goes on in the village will continue. We'll continue to have the maintenance fees and the ability to handle the village. Whether it grows fast or whether it grows slow, we have the finances in place and the resources to take care of what we have. Nobody can predict the future in terms of what property is going to cost. I don't see anything here in the village losing property value. And recent studies have showed that the property values in Tellico Village are better than the national average. Now, there's still plenty of land available to build on here. So whether we use it or not, in terms of rapid sales, I don't know that makes a difference long term for the village.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Let's take our next question here, and I will just ask, we try to keep your responses maybe not quite so.
How is this? Can everybody hear
Yeah,
me?
we hear you fine.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
This is, I have a question specific to Mr. Bernetti, and then I have a very short question to each of the candidates, and all it takes is a yes or no answer.
Fair enough.
Okay. Mr. Bernetti, recently you were endorsed by the leadership of the Conservative Club of Tellico Village through Nextdoor Tellico. You were credited with being an outstanding steward of money and a strong advocate for personal liberties. Please explain why you would need to be a strong advocate for our personal liberties through your service as a POA director.
Sorry. I'm a member of the Conservative Club, and there are over 1,000 members to that club. The president of that club, Mr. Drum, is someone I've known for a while. He hasn't been in the village that long. But they decided to endorse me. I didn't really ask them to do that. They offered to. We thought that you're someone we know. You're someone we think would make a good board member. What was the second part of the question?
Well, it was how would you? You're an advocate for personal liberties. How would you bring that to your role as a POA director? Because it was credited as a positive for you from that particular role.
I guess I would say that I would listen to the residents of Tellico Village, listen to what they have to say, both sides of an issue. There are some people that I might not agree with, or some people I would agree with, but I would obviously give everyone the opportunity to speak their piece and make it known to me and the board members and whoever else they wish.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second simple question, yes or no for each of you. Should you lose the election, will you accept the outcome?
I have to think about it.
Okay,
Yes, of course.
okay, let me, before the next.
Absolutely, I would also.
Okay. All right. Let me take a question from that came in from one of our online viewers. Gentlemen, once again, I think this should be a fairly quick question to answer. Is there anything being done about property owners who aren't paying their POA monthly dues? And what is your approach to collecting these fees that are delinquent? Short answer, please.
Well, I can say that the POA has a process that they follow, and they are collecting from people. Missy probably can give us the latest figures, but they've done a very good job recently. And if I'm correct, Missy, doesn't that go through Beth Kaburka's office, or how does that handle? Yeah, the answer is that Beth works with the CFO and the controller on that. So it is being taken care of, and I can tell you that the number is substantially less than it has been.
Okay. Either one of you, Bob or Hussein, have a comment?
Well, I'm aware there is a legal process to go through to collect them, and they are. I was informed at a meeting I went to that they are in fact pursuing the delinquent property owners, and there aren't that many of them, but there are some, and they are actively pursuing and collecting the money.
Thank you. Hussein, any comment?
I would not add anything to that.
Okay. Very good. All right. Next.
Yes, this is for all the candidates. It kind of piggybacks on Joe's comments. I think we all know there's been recent controversy over polarizing information that's been publicly displayed in some of the neighborhoods, and polarizing views that have been on billboards that are attributable to members of Tellico Village. Putting free speech aside for a moment, do you feel this is the culture and image of Tellico Village that we should project to our residents, visitors, and the general public? If not, and if you're elected, what would you do to address this situation?
Anybody want to go first?
I think this is a very good question. And as we all know, we all come from somewhere else. We have our own political views. We have our personal behavior. And I think we are here all in it together. And I think we should have civic order. I think people should respect each other. And I think for me as a person who experienced many challenges in my life and survived. I think people should work together. We are all the same people. We are all the children of God, and we should always remember that. And I think if I elected to the board, of course, I'm only one member, there are 6 others. I think we should look at all avenues to spread the word to be kind to each other and see what's the legal ramification. Unfortunately, we are a legalistic society, so everything we deal with it legal, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the effort should be on everybody, tone it down. It's not worth it. I mean, believe me, I live in a neighborhood, most of my neighbors probably have different opinion than mine, and we live great. And I never hesitated to express my opinion, and I never hesitated to respect their opinion. So
Okay.
please let us do that and more of that.
Thanks, Hussein. Bob, John, any comments?
Well, I would agree. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. How they express the opinion. There are rules in the village concerning signage and expressing and certain things that can be on your lawn or whatever. Maybe they need to be enforced more. I personally am not aware of what you're talking about. I will tell you.
I can give you specific details.
I mean,
if
I
you
don't.
like.
I don't drive around in the neighborhoods looking for signs, but
I don't either.
But if
they're
there
there.
are, if there's something there that's offensive, I think you should bring it to the, I guess, to the board.
It
bring it to
has
the
been.
board,
Check.
or bring it to, I guess, Public Works is one of the company that
Okay.
I guess polices this. I guess for lack of a better word. So I think if you're not having any success, I guess you need to bring it to the board directly. Thank
Okay.
you.
We have done that.
Thanks, Bob. John?
Well, I think we need to remember why we first came here to Tellico. We're all from someplace else. We're a family. We need to respect each other's opinions, but we also need to be civil with each other and respect that fact. So going forward, I would ask that everybody respect each other. And as Hussein said, let's just tone it down a little bit and get back to what Tellico Village is all about and the social fabric of helping one another, being a good neighbor to each other, because that's really what I experienced when I came to this village, and I would like to see it continue going forward in that fashion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let me take one from the online. And what is your position on businesses permitting of homes within the village residential areas? And I might just ask, we're getting close to our time, so please be brief. Question again?
Well, I guess you're talking about Airbnbs, I guess, which
Yeah.
Hussein already mentioned. There are several Airbnbs apparently in the village. It's something that I really wasn't aware about until a couple of months ago, that people were actually doing Airbnbs in their homes. I do know that it is something that the ACC is looking into. Home businesses are allowed, but they do need a permit. I think there needs to be a lot more investigation before we decide how we're going to handle Airbnbs.
Okay.
Hussein, you want to go ahead? Okay.
This is a dear issue for me.
Hussein, I know it's an issue for you. Please, be brief.
Yes, I wasn't aware of it actually until a few months, and I found out that home occupation is covered under Article 21 of the covenants, and it says as long as you have invisible activities which doesn't impact parking and traffic, it's okay. I don't know where you draw the line, but actually that is not my most issue. My issue is with somebody living in Hawaii or Alaska or China has a house and he's making it a short-term renter. Like every 2-3 days, people come and go. That's really my issue. And that is certainly is not a home occupation. It is a business in a zoned area as residential. And regarding the ACC, which Bob mentioned, actually, I was at the meeting last Thursday.
Hussein, I'm
If
sorry.
I might, just 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
Actually, the subject came, and the ACC wasn't aware that they were in charge of that.
Okay, thanks. Any comment, John?
Well, I remember the first time that we came here to spend some time before we bought, and we did it over a course of 3 summers. We rented a house, and there were firms in Lenore City and around that have houses for rent. Now, that's not an Airbnb, so I don't know how you distinguish. It gets to be a fine line because an Airbnb rental could be for a day, it could be for 3 weeks, it could be for a month. So I think the issue needs to be looked into as to how you want to handle rentals. There have been rentals traditionally in the village since it's been established. So that's just a point to look at in the future.
Okay, thank you. Let's take another question from our audience, and this will actually be the last question we'll formally take today. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have one as well? Okay, we'll take these last 2.
Okay, for all board members or potential candidates, please rank these 3 things and explain to me why you'd rank them in this order and what's most important to least important. Infrastructure, build out, and amenities.
Okay, rank these three things: infrastructure, build out, or amenities from a priority standpoint.
Correct.
Infrastructure, build out, and amenities. How would you rank those?
And why?
Bob, why don't you take it?
I guess I would go infrastructure first, only because infrastructure, if in fact we have to expand infrastructure, we have to fix infrastructure, we have to maintain it, is a very expensive situation. We have to start, replacing sewer pipes or water pipes or substations. Obviously, we have to be very cognizant to maintain those items so that we don't have a major problem. So far, we have not.
Bob, please.
Amenities would be second, and build out would be third, because I think we're getting close to build out already. So I think we can control that a little better. But amenities, I think, would be second.
Okay, Hussein, your response, please.
I think just to be brief, I would agree with Bob, the infrastructure, the amenities. I would focus on the negative aspects of the built out to make sure that we don't make things worse.
Okay, John?
Well, in the interest of brevity, infrastructure, amenities, build out.
Thank you. All right. Last question from the audience, and then we'll move on.
I think one long-term threat to the quality of life and property values in the village are the upstream migration of Asian carp, so the question I have for you as candidates is, what do you see the board's role and your role would be in that, if indeed you think the POA has a role or it should be handled somewhere else? So just your ideas on what you should be doing and the board should be doing going forward on Asian carp.
Okay, so to paraphrase the question, what do you feel the board's role should or should not be relative to Asian carp? Is that correct? Briefly.
Do I have a mic?
You do now.
I do not.
You do now.
I do now. Okay, well, what's happened in the past years is the board has been active with the Asian carp issue, and to their great success, they've helped get $25 million appropriated by the federal government through our local representative in Congress to study the issue. And as to what they would do in the future, we just need to keep the pressure on all of our legislators about both local, state, and federal to make sure that this issue gets more traction. It is being studied. It would be my hope that in the short term that they might find some kind of a barrier that they could put down at Chickamauga Lake.
John, just what do you think the board's role would be?
Keep the pressure on.
Okay, thank you. Hussein?
I think this issue is more of a state and federal government response, and I think the board has done a great job. Carla, I think, was coordinating this stuff, and they did a good job, and I think just continue doing the right thing.
Thank you. Bob?
Well, I was at a board meeting about a year and a half ago when this first came up, and I think we just have to work with federal, state, and local authorities and keep them informed and have them keep us informed of what's happening and what they're doing to stop this.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the question portion of our event this afternoon. As mentioned in my opening comments, any other questions that have come in, certainly online, or if you all have any remaining questions, get them to us, and we will submit them to the candidates, asking for their written response, and we will publish those responses or on the HOA website. Now, at this point, I'd like to give each candidate 2 minutes to summarize their candidacy and why you should vote for them. And starting off, Hussein, 2 minutes.
I'll go back to the mission, and what's very important to me is the quality of life in the village and the social fabric. And I think all of us can and should do what we can to continue making it the best place we can live. The board and management has a role, but we as the residents have a major role, even bigger than their role, to ensure that we do that. And as long as we keep doing the right thing regarding the quality, and anything we decide on, it should not adversely impact that. Thank you very much, and I hope you vote for me.
John?
Well, I think that I've stated the issues that are important to me, and I think important to the village, about infrastructure, communication, and fiscal responsibility. And I will work diligently to be a good board member and to be responsive to the issues that you, the village residents, bring to me so that we can move forward together. I thank you for coming today, and I would be very appreciative of your vote. Thank you very much.
Bob?
The board members must be fiscally responsible to the property owners. We must listen to and respond to the needs of the community, because it's our money that we're spending. It's not yours, because we are all property owners too, so we are paying all fees. So it's all our money that we're dealing with. Your money, our money, and we must be, again, respond to the needs and be fiscally responsible when we spend that money. We need to do everything possible to maintain our property values and the wonderful lifestyle that we have here. I believe my experience in making sound decisions, my time in the village, my involvement in familiarity with village affairs through my time on the advisory board and the HOA make me a qualified candidate for the board, and I ask that you support my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Just a few closing comments here. First of all, as you know, this is a process that's underway. So here's the calendar of activities, okay, leading up to the election itself. On October 28th, the election materials will be made out. On the 31st, you'll be able to vote open on VoteNet or by paper ballot at 12 o'clock in the morning on the 31st. By the 18th, ballots, both electronic and paper, must be received by VoteNet by 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 12 o'clock noon. The polls will close at noon on November 18th. On the 19th, the official announcement of the election results will be made. The committee sends the report to the board of directors for certification. And as they all said, they will accept the results of the election results. So, on the 15th, the certification of the results will be announced, and the new board members will be announced at the POA board meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you found this this event meaningful and will help you be more informed when you make your vote. Thank you so much for attending, and have a good afternoon. Take care.